Yes, ma'am. Well, to order for Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Chip Scruggs, if you'll come over to the podium tonight for a convocation. Thank you, Pastor Scruggs.
Dear Heavenly Father, you invited us to approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. We come to see you confessing we need your help in our time of need here today. You've instructed us to ask you for wisdom, and according to your word, we believe you will give wisdom generously to all. We desperately need you to be victorious in addressing all the issues that confront us in our culture. Father, may we reach the purpose for which we were created. May we have courage above our fears. May we have more passion for the things of God than others think is necessary. May we dream more than others think is practical, and may we expect more than others think is possible. May we choose wisely without any earthly bias, and may we grasp that we have been divinely and strategically placed here for such a time as this, just so that we can become all we were created by you to be. May we see vistas that others do not even know exist. May we see you in every person because they bear your image and are designed by your hand. And Father, may we recognize that Jesus is the solution to all of our perplexing situations. Tonight, Lord, we pray a divine hedge of protection around our schools. We ask that our students would have a renewed passion to learn, and that our teachers would have a renewed passion to teach. And Father, may you be glorified in our time together here this evening and in all the days you have ordained for us. Lord, I pray this in Jesus' most holy and precious name this evening. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Scruggs. Ms. Galls, did we make the appropriate media contacts? Thank you. And also, we have an established quorum tonight of 100%. So that's wonderful. Thank you. Now, we'll move on forward. If you have in front of your packet do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll take the second.
Thank you, Ms. Foxworth. We have a motion is properly second. With that being said, we'll bring the motion to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, unanimously accepted and recorded. Now, if you'll move on, please, to your minutes. You received those in your packet. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Reverend Brown. We have a motion. Do we have a second for the minutes?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have a second. We have a motion is properly seconded at this time. Is there any questions or discussions concerning the minutes? With no questions or concerns, we'll bring the minutes to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Now, if we will now move to Dr. Bethay, student staff recognitions.
Madam Chair and the board, this is our favorite part of the board meeting, a time where we highlight the successes of our students and our staff. I often say that we have a talented group of students and we have a hardworking and dedicated staff. And so we always welcome an opportunity to recognize them at our board meeting. So at this time, Dr. Bunch will come forward. We will first start with a staff recognition. This year, as you're aware, our motto is cultivating excellence is our superpower. And we have a group of staff members that do extraordinary work. We could have numerous people before you tonight, but we do have one individual that will represent this month. And so Dr. Bunch at this time.
So this time, we're going to
Madam Chair.
recognize one of our staff members at this time, Ms. Jamie Barron. If you come to the front, please. And as she comes to the front, I want to read about why she was nominated. She was nominated by multiple members of her team. She's very dedicated. Nothing stands in her way. She's faced many obstacles, but she continues to roll with it and be successful. She always goes above and beyond, always. And for the teachers and staff at McCormick, she's a great coach and she's a great support to all of them. So congratulations to you as you're nominated by your staff and recognized tonight. Congratulations.
I will say that Ms. Barronville has the title on we can congratulate. But in that, whatever it takes to make sure that that school operates. Much well deserved. Thank you for being such.
At this time, we want to recognize many of our students across Marion County who've done some really outstanding work. So students, as I call your name, you'll come to the front, leave a recognition and shaking hands. We'll take pictures and those kinds of things. So at this time, first we'll start with Marion Intermediate School. The principal from Marion Intermediate will come up. Now, folks, this is fantastic, okay? We don't say this very often when we get to do this, but this is one of those things. A student has a perfect score on SC Ready for math. So congratulations already to Janasia Fling. So Janasia, come on in.
Dr. Bunch, I have to come behind you and give a little bit more information. For those who do not know, the SC Ready is the state assessment that every child in the state of South Carolina takes for their grade level. And to receive a perfect score is almost unheard of. So let's give her a big round of applause for that.
Real fast. Hold, take a picture, real fast. Here we go. Want to see that pretty face. Now, I know Mr. Frazier's excited because that student goes to Mr. Frazier here pretty soon. He's excited. All right, thank you, Janae. Congratulations.
Very old boardwalk for that.
All right, the next students I'm going to call will be for work key certificates. And this is a college and career readiness status that we all of our students to achieve, but they have done a really above and beyond to get some special recognition as either silver, gold, or platinum status. So as I call your name, I'm going to ask the principal to come up, please. As I call your name, we'll start with the silver. We'll call all the silvers up. We'll take a big picture and give them a round of applause first, okay? So Noel Shala, Jamari Blanks, Kaylee Beckstrand, Alyssa Crawford, Jamal Davis, Grayson Hartson, Jerome McCullough, Makila Patel, Bailey Roberts, Charlie Richardson, Jamalia Rawling, Travis Stuckey. Good. Jameer Sanders. And Tyler Simmons. These students have achieved work key status in the silver category. So congratulations to these students. Good job. Go through and shake hands with our.
Congratulations. Thank you.
The next students we'll recognize will be for gold status for college and career readiness work key certificates. Kendall Elliott, Ronald Ginwright, Sanaya Howard, Tyler Hayward, Margaret Jackson, Samantha Love, and Christopher Townsend. We'll still give them a round of applause. Good job to these students. For our final recognition is for the highest status that you can have for work keys and college career readiness, the platinum level, Brian Barnhill. Here.
Next, to do the boardwalk on behalf of her students. Thank you. Good job.
And I'd like to take a moment to ask the parents of these fine students to stand so we can applaud you for your hard work as well. If you're a parent here with your child, please stand. Dr. Bethea, we have the success story.
Well,
That was our success. Well, that was a great success story. Excellent. Wonderful. Now we'll move into the business of the school district. The finance report, Ms. Cooper. Oh. Thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Cooper is at a training. We do have Mr. Matt Pizzetti from our finance department that will bring the report to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The numbers in front of you are through the end of September of this school year. The year-to-date revenue so far through 3 months is $6,439,283. The year-to-date expenses, $7,345,945, and encumbrances, $750,608, for a total of $8,096,553. And as customary this time of year, we'll be in where expenses are a little bit over revenue, but that's just because of waiting for taxes to come in at the first part of the year. I even went back and looked at last year and it was roughly around the same numbers. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any, where do I look to find the Medicaid, what Medicaid's brought in?
We don't have Medicaid in this statement this month, but we certainly can get that to
We
y'all.
can get that to you. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Cooper said she would bring that to you quarterly. So we'll make sure she gets
I
that.
thought it was going to be monthly.
Because it's not as much movement because it's claims. Yeah.
Thank you.
But we
Yes,
can
ma'am.
get that to you where we are.
All right, board, do you have any questions at this time? With no questions, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is operations.
We do have for our operations and facilities report, Mr. Jason Jordan that will handle both segments. Mrs. Sturkey was not able to be with us this evening.
Good evening. For Mr. Sturkey's part of the weapons protection system, the main thing he just wanted to update y'all on was that the plans were to have 3 of the units that were displayed last board meeting at each high school and then 2 at each middle school. So that's the plans for those. As far as the second reading, I think we want to do that in executive session. There's action for it.
No, you can go ahead. Move
Oh,
forward if
okay.
they have any questions.
Okay.
Before you have the model safe school policy. I actually think this is the 3rd time that it's been before you. I think one time it was not listed as action. And so nothing has changed since the first reading. And if you don't have any questions, we're asking for final approval tonight.
Right. The board, we have a request to accept the model safe schools at this time. Do we have a motion to accept?
I make the motion we accept.
All right, we have a motion to accept. Do we have a second?
I take the second.
Thank you, Ms. Foxworth. We have a motion and properly second. As at this time, we'll open up to discussion or questions. Any discussion or questions? All right, with no discussion or questions, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, then that motion passes. Now we'll move on to surplus property.
Which will also be a motion in executive session, but just wanted to bring to y'all's attention, there was a request for some of the property sent to us. And we'll take a vote on it in executive session.
Yep. So we'll be holding the discussion in executive session, and then a decision will be made when we come out.
And
So, yes.
Madam Chair, just to bring the board back up to speed, as we talked about last month about the proviso regarding the surplus property. And so that is what Mr. Jordan is referencing. We have had some interest, but we will take that into executive session as a legal matter.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Jordan at this time? Thank you for coming forward.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. In your packet that was given to you, we do have personnel actions, and we are asking that the board approve and accept these actions as submitted.
Madam Chair, at this point, we normally have a request for executive session for personnel action, but we do not have that meeting on this evening.
Okay, so no discussion as to any of the intents.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So board, you've heard that the recommendations that's brought forth by the superintendent for personnel be accepted as presented. Do we have a motion to accept this recommendation?
I make the motion we accept.
All right, we have a motion and properly second. With that being, any discussion? With no discussion, we'll bring that motion to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Do we have any opposed? So the ayes carry unanimously, and that will be recorded.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next part on the agenda is the academic accountability update, which is our 2022 state report cards. And for those of you that woke up last night at 1 o'clock when they were published, 1 o'clock in the morning, I commend you. But they're out, and thank you for being here and sharing our first information. Thank you.
Okay, very good. As you know, our 2022 report cards were just released. And our report cards, tonight I want to talk about what makes up the report cards, and I want to share the ratings of each school with you. So there are a total of 100 points for the report card. And what makes up the report card are academic success, which would be math and ELA, preparing for success, student progress, climate, graduation rate, college and career readiness, and out of a total of 5 points. Your primary schools did not receive ratings this year. Elementary school, we have Creek Bridge STEM Academy, the elementary portion. The elementary portion and the high and the middle school portion are treated separately, so they receive individual report cards. As you can see, we have a total of 45 points for Creek Bridge STEM Academy, and that's average, below average, and average for our elementary schools. Our middle schools, we have the 1 average, and we have 2 below average schools, but I must say they're very close to being average. They're within 1 to 2 points of being average. And your high schools, we have 1 unsatisfactory and 1 below average, and the unsatisfactory is also very close to being below average. So they were right on that border there. One thing I do want to point out would be the student progress. When you look at our student progress, our students grew on average more than the state at every school, and our district grew more than the state. So when you look at the percentage of student growth, our students outgrew the students statewide. And that shows that our students are learning, our students are working, teachers are teaching. What we need to focus on is the rate of growth, the rate of instruction, so that we can catch up, because we want to catch up to those academic indicators. Because as you can see, the academic success, those are out of 40 points and out of 30 points. And so we want to capture more of those points. And so we need to increase our rate of growth in order to capture more of those points. You can go online and see more of the individual report cards at that link. This is the SC Ready for ELA. And I mentioned earlier that this is part of the academic progress. You can see when you look at the percentages of does not meet expectation, we've successfully lowered that number because we want that number to be lower. And we've improved in the approaches, meets, and exceeds. But here again, we aren't increasing in the numbers and the rates that we want to increase. And so we're going to do that. Here's math. Math is also included in that academic indicator. Next, we will want to share with you what we're doing to work on these elements of the report card.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Bethea, good evening. Just an update for the K-2 plan of action. Some of this I shared with you back in August, but a focus on instruction and assessments. And what I mean here is we have revised our curriculum frameworks, and our pacing guides are more detailed this year, actually breaking down ELA for each component that the teachers are teaching each day. And so we have those pacing guides in place. Common planning, I want to jump down to common planning. In common planning, teachers are meeting together by grade levels at the primary schools twice a week, and some of them 3 times a week. So we have one day during planning period for ELA during the school day, one day during planning period for math during the school day, and then a day after school. And so during those common planning sessions, those planning sessions are facilitated by our reading coaches for ELA and our APIs for math. And during those common planning sessions, they are looking at the data from those previous assessments that they have given, identifying trends, strengths, and weaknesses, and a plan of action for how we're gonna move forward based off of those common assessments. They're also looking at the standards that are coming up for the next week and talking about instructional strategies and activities that they can put in place. We're giving common assessments district-wide, bi-weekly in ELA, and then at the end of each module in math, which is usually around 2, no more than 3 weeks, they're giving those common assessments as well. But not just giving the assessments, but utilizing the data. And we also have these standard mastery checklists. And so each time we teach a standard in ELA and math, we have a form, we're putting the data in. And then when we go back and spiral and hit it again, we're putting the data in so we'll know how many times we have touched standards and making sure that we're spiraling and going back to those standards. I think someone asked about writing about 2 months ago because Mr. Bellamy was talking about the My Assets writing for grades 3 through 8. Well, Fontes and Pinnell Classroom did come out with a writing mini lessons book. And that mini lesson book gives our teachers brief, explicit lessons that help children understand and apply effective writing strategies. So we have purchased that book and they're in the hands of all of our K2 teachers. And we actually bought it for 3rd grade as well because they had it for 3rd grade. And so they're using those writing mini lessons out of that writing mini lesson book. And then we're starting back with our quarterly writing prompts district-wide. So our students in grades K through 2 just took a writing prompt on narrative writing because they had focused on narrative writing 6 weeks prior. And so they took that writing prompt at the end. And so we have a writing data collection tool that we keep up with each child and their score using the scoring rubric. So the goal is that if they are scoring at a 0 or 1 right now, by the next time we give a writing prompt, we should see those scores increase. And so constantly looking at that data. Classroom Mosaic is an observation tool that all of the schools have. And so we're using that to go in and observe teachers. You can simply upload templates into this observation tool and you can go in and observe teachers and you can go back and see all of those observations as well. We are continuing with our reading interventionists at each school, and all of the primary schools have 1 reading interventionist each and 1 reading recovery teacher. Just side note, reading recovery is only, those reading recovery teachers only work with 1st grade students in the bottom 10%. And then our reading interventionists are working with a mixture of bubble children and also some of the bottom 20% children as well. And those reading interventionists are using the Level Literacy Intervention Program, the LLI kits. Data bulletin boards, going back, we used to do this a few years ago, posting up the data in a room that's not available to everybody else, but so that you can actually post the data up. And I have a picture to show you as well. So you can see where the children are and you can see the progression over the year. And then the last thing, and I'll get to these pictures, and the last thing, all of our K3 teachers are going through the letters training. And I told you about the letters training a little earlier this school year. That's language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And basically letters is just giving teachers skills needed to master the fundamentals of teaching, reading, instruction, focusing on phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, writing, and language. And so that's a 2-year training that the state is putting us through. And so the teachers complete a module each week. And then 4 times a year, we have a major training where the trainer comes in across Zoom. And so our 2nd major training is actually next week, next Thursday and Friday. And so we hope to see some results of that. And so here are just a few pictures that when I go out in the schools to observe classes, when I see something that is good, I try to take a picture of it and I share it with the schools as well. And so in the top left corner, you'll see interactive. That's a word wall. It's not interactive till we make it interactive, but we expect to see word walls in all our classrooms. And I just shared today, I was in a classroom and the teacher was looking at, actually, the children were identifying ED words. Well, this little fella, he didn't identify ED word, but he identified and, A-N-D. And so that was a perfect moment because Ann was on the word wall for that teacher to go back and say, yeah, that's one of our word wall words right here. And so word wall words in all of our classrooms. The picture at the top on the right, that is a picture of a classroom level library. And if I zoomed in, I should have made it a little bigger, but you can see she has little bumblebees on each one of them, and she has the letters. So when children go to pick out their books for independent reading, they're picking out the books that are on their independent reading level. And then the picture in the bottom left, that's a guided reading table. It was evident that this teacher was prepared. She had the books out on the kidney table that her students needed. She had the letters for her word work segment. She had her own lesson plan on here. And so that was just a picture of showing that someone was prepared for their guided reading lesson. And when the children went over, they knew exactly what to do. And the bottom right is just an example of one of our data walls where that instructional leadership team took their iReady data from the beginning of the year and posted the children up for reading and math according to where they scored. And so the goal is over the year, we'll see more students shifting to the right. And I'm gonna let Mr. Bellamy come up with updates from grades 3 through 8.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board, Dr. Bethay. 3 through 8, we're starting with Classroom Mosaic, the observation tool we brought to you at the beginning of the year. And this is critically important with all of our schools, and I can speak specifically in the area of math with our consultant, and some of our principals are extending that beyond math. We're coming up with triage action plans, and with those action plans, we are actually choosing a rubric that we are using within Classroom Mosaic so that we can keep the feedback that we are providing to our teachers objective and focused on what they are doing in terms of expectations from the State Department. Many of those tools in Classroom Mosaic are aligned to the SCTS 4.0 rubric, which is how our teachers are evaluated. So we are excited to have that data that we are collecting district-wide. My Access Writing, we are continuing with those trainings 3 through 8. Also with our high school, we have a number of our schools that are already getting writing samples in place as students who are doing revisions. And for those schools who are using it weekly or bi-weekly, we are already seeing growth in writing. And so with the growth in our writing scores, that adversely impacted our ELA scores, which is our academic achievement on our state report card. So with that growth, we are confident that we will see some growth in the academic achievement category based upon writing alone. In terms of curriculum frameworks and guides, I put that it is fluid because we are constantly having conversations and bringing everybody to the table. So recently we did make an adjustment to our ELA framework at the request of our 3-5 schools. And with the guidance of our math consultant, we made some minor changes to our math framework. And what we did was we combined a number of the parts of the framework to make it easier for our teachers and our students in the classroom daily. And we've shared that with them and with those adjustments. In the pictures later, I will also show you some pictures of data bulletin boards, charts, and hubs that we're developing at the 3-8 level so that our data is live, that our students understand it, our teachers understand it, and that we're keeping it before them on a weekly basis. Our common formative assessments are looking at our standards mastery, ensuring that we are teaching state standards and to the level of the standards in our classrooms on a daily basis. I often talk with our administrators about taking a dual approach on our state report card. We have to move academic achievement, but we also have to continue to growth. And how you do that is you focus on the bottom 20% of students with the small groups that go on in your class daily, and you focus on all students by ensuring that your mini lesson is aligned to the standard. And you will also, during those intervention times in small groups, hit those very targeted bubble students. So we are working to be very intentional about the instruction that we're giving in our classrooms and how we plan to move our students school-wide. As Ms. Sweeney referenced, we are continuing with our interventionists at the elementary levels. We have ELA interventionists, and at the math level, we have math interventionists. At the middle school level, we have math interventionists currently in place. In the month of November, we are working to have curriculum development teams, which we're going to bring teams of teachers from all our schools together. Typically, this work takes place in the summertime, but the goal for 3-8 this year is that we work starting in November through May, so that when all of our teachers leave for the summer, they have the curriculum that they're going to use for the 23-24 school year already in hand. And typically, we work through the summer, we send that out, and most teachers are looking at it the week they return from spring break. But our goal this year is to have that curriculum in hand for those teachers at the end of the school year. And then academic consultants, we are excited to have Ms. Ethel Johnson and Dr. Drennan working with ELA in our schools. Ms. Tanika Evans is our math consultant, and we're bringing Ms. Branch, who started the work this summer with our science teachers, back to continue developing those science guides and working with those teachers. We can go to the pictures. These are just examples of displays that we have in our buildings. That top picture is by grade level for ELA and math, and it shows we're looking at the percentage of students who are actually getting the 45 minutes required by iReady, so that they can move, the number of topics completed, and the percent that they are complete, the rate of completion, which is 75% or higher. And so that is posted in one of our schools as soon as you walk into the school, and the students can see it on their way into the cafeteria. This top bulletin board is in one of our schools. It has certificates that recognize students. It has the classes that covered the most lessons. It has the school-wide challenge grade level. Again, keeping that data before our students on a regular basis. In another one of our schools, in their PLC room or their common planning room, they have the students update those, not the students, the teachers update those charts weekly to hold teachers accountable to the expectations that we have identified in iReady, both in math and ELA. And then the last two pictures are displays in teachers' classrooms, where they're holding those students accountable for the topics that they are completing. So again, data is in our face weekly, and our goal is to ensure that we are growing academically as well as just universally growing our students.
Okay, and just to sum up the 9-12, there was a 9-12 slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ms. Gardner.
That's quite all right. So 9-12, we're going to monitor graduation rate and students at risk of not graduating. So we want to keep a thumb on those. Work with ACT to provide courses to help more students become college and career ready. And then we have a strong focus on instruction and assessment. We are also working with common planning, the benchmarks, and student mastery.
Thank you, Ms. Gardner. Thank you, teaching and learning team, and accountability.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Madam Chair, I would like to move a minute, readjust the presentation. We do have our principals here, and I do want to recognize them for National Principals Month. And I also wanted them to be here for the accountability and data presentation. We thought that was very important, but also wanted them to be a part of our code of conduct discussion. And we do have Ms. Rush that is with us this evening as well. Okay, Ms. Rush, and Ms. Rush, please chime in or come up if you would. As you are aware, if you are watching the news or keeping up with your clippings that come out through the school board each day, there has been an increase in physical altercations in schools across the state. They have been during the school day, they have been in athletic events. Based on recent activity that we have had in Marion County School District, we are reconvening our discipline task force so that we can look at our code of conduct to make sure that we have a strong code of conduct that is going to mandate that we have safe and orderly environments. And so with this, I have before you, you're fully aware of the current guidelines. I come before you this evening, and Ms. Rush can explain a little more, asking temporarily, and I say temporarily, we don't know how long before the discipline task force comes back with additional recommendations or to maintain these. In the previous code of conduct, as you can tell, Your first offense, not assault, but just a regular fight. In the first offense, you see the different consequences. At this juncture, we feel that we have to take a more aggressive approach. 3 days or 3 to 5 days home for a fight. We're recommending that we do move to an automatic 10-day suspension for fighting, as well as a referral or review for alternative placement. We have to, at some point, send a strong message in our district that we're not going to tolerate environments where learning cannot occur. You've seen our scores. We stop and we pause and we celebrate the growth, but our growth is not at the point of achievement. As you can tell, we have moved students in our schools, but we know to be able to get to where we need to academically, we have to make sure that we have environments that are conducive to learning. And so with this, I am asking to put these particular guidelines in effect effective tomorrow. Ms. Rush, if you would then outline the expectations.
Yes, ma'am. Members of the board, Madam Chair, Dr. Lefay, thank you just for this opportunity to further outline our actions that we will take. As Dr. Lefay has already said, the 10-day suspension in addition to a referral for an evidentiary hearing. And at that evidentiary hearing, then it would either be the options of return to school on probation, it could be an extended suspension, or it could be a recommendation for alternative placement, or a recommendation for the Flexible Learning Academy as a result of the fight and the actions that need to be taken as a result of.
And I do want to emphasize, not only to the board and our community, when we define a fight, we're not looking with this just at those who are physically in the altercation. We're talking about those who incite a fight, as well as those who record and partake in any particular way. Because we have to let our students know that sometimes your association, even when you didn't throw a punch, can have the same consequences as those that are engaging. There any questions from the board? Or our attorney?
Dr. Bethea, I would like, we moved right in from the test scores into on the code of conduct. And I know that this board feels like there is no disconnect between the two, that behavior in the schools directly impacts the success of the student. And with that being said, I want to give the board a chance to openly discuss this. This is a concern that we have, and an opportunity to put this out so we can actually find successful ways to bring our students back to where we know they can perform. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for questions for Dr. Bethea or discussions that we need to have between us as a board. Do I have anybody that would like to respond to that at this time?
I want to know, are the changes just going to be for fighting? I mean,
Right now, we are addressing fighting in the orderly environment. As I stated initially, the task force will be meeting and bringing back recommendations. They will look at everything. But right now, my concern is having the orderly environments and fighting. But the task force that will convene will look at the whole code of conduct.
because I think we need that our code of conduct, as we stated, we have a good code of conduct, which is just not being enforced or reinforced, or it's not, maybe we're giving too many chances.
They will look at the infractions. They will look at offenses by level and make any recommendations or change. The team will look at every aspect of the code of conduct. And so these are just recommendations that I would like to start immediately, effective tomorrow, with notification, but we will be bringing forth additional recommendations.
I think it's a great start.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pridgeon. Does anybody else have a comment?
Yes, I got it.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to get Mr. Dozier first and then Mr. Hill. Mr. Dozier?
Dr. Bethea, I appreciate you taking a step towards solving the problems. This is a major problem, and I appreciate what you're doing. And it means a lot to me because me walking through the schools on Fridays and seeing some of the actions that's going on, I mean, I'm glad you're doing it now, and I appreciate it, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hill,
I'm
anything?
glad you're taking the action, because that's been my pet peeve from number one. But I also got to say, as I just had a Facebook post from a young lady that child was tried to be jumped by 4 students at a high school today, and nothing was done. So, call the school, but I'm just saying is, I got an email from that lady, a text message, I'm sorry, from that lady in that big old long spiel that she had 3 to 4 kids trying to jump on her child.
And Mr. Hill, if it's an individual circumstance, we'll discuss that. So we'll know who and what, and we'll follow up. Thank you.
Okay, do I have anybody else that would like to make a comment? Reverend Brown, are you ready to make a comment?
Madam Chair, we
Yes.
do, we failed to recognize that we do have Ms. Oberita White that's
Okay.
online. And I think that she wants to speak after Reverend Brown.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. Reverend Brown?
In the code of conduct, I like the changes you're making. Because if kids are fighting and misbehaving, they cannot learn. I would also like for you, I don't know if this ties in with code of conduct. It might be code of conduct for teachers. But when too many kids are in the hallway after the bell rings, and teachers allow them to stagger in whenever they feel like it, and nothing is done, that's a problem that we also need to deal with. When I taught school, I locked my door when the last bell rung, and the kids knew they couldn't get in. We have to send a message that not only the principals ought to be held responsible, for the teachers as well. Kids will never ask for discipline, but trust me, they appreciate it when it is done. So I thank you for the change you're going to make. Please check on how many kids are in the hallway after that last bell ring. And these teachers who are not punishing them in any form or fashion. That is classroom disruption, Dr. Zhang. Thank you.
To make the board aware of our next steps, we will send these changes out in multiple ways tomorrow for our parents. And to make sure that they are aware, so those notifications will go out tomorrow and will then become effective once we do push out those notifications.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
Ms. White?
Ms. White?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and Dr. Bethea. I want to say that I've been thinking about the issues and seeing them in a different position as I switch positions. And I applaud the very, very ambitious and necessary, and it's unfortunate that has to be necessary to go to the level it is, but it's necessary. And the part that you addressed with the videoing of those incidents is important. And I think that sometimes we focus so much on those who are, doing the fighting that we don't understand, the videotaping is the thing that gives it breath. If it wasn't taped, most people would not feel the need to respond the way they've been responding, because they have 15 minutes. Doesn't matter whether it's good 15 minutes or bad 15 minutes. They're going to take it. So I appreciate that. And I applaud y'all, because that can't be easy because of the fact that you have to deal with both the education piece, but there's no way to tease it out. And I appreciate that the time that y'all put into coming up with this new system, this temporary addressing of those issues.
Thank you, Mrs. White. Thank you.
Anyone else that has a comment to be made?
I guess they're me.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Foxworth.
Dr. Bethea, I want to say thank you. Of course, my first thing is to make sure that they have their work when they go home, so they can do some work. But 10 days is well good enough, and even up to 15 days, because we have to send a message to let them know, we can't keep letting you go off and figure out, you have to be safe. And I know this month is bullying month. So, this is one of my months. I love to be engaged with. But I think we should give all the administrators at the schools, especially the principals, the authority to do what they need to do when it comes down to their school. So I appreciate it, and I thank y'all so much for this.
All right. Board, collectively, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we do feel that it's important from the board's perspective that we look deeply into the success of the code of conduct, and that we ensure that all schools are at all times safe with some sense of decorum as to how students should behave. And the final piece is that we are here about the educating of children, all children. And with that, we understand that that cannot happen effectively when the school environment is not being adequately controlled. So does anybody disagree with that statement? If not, if we could record that into the minutes, Madam Secretary, so that we will move forward. The last statement I would like to be placed in front of you board members is the consideration for the following. I'm not asking for opinion tonight. I'd like for you to be thoughtful about this, but the consideration of this board, instead of meeting monthly, that we meet bi-monthly, which would be twice a month, that one of the meetings is purely for academics and the code of conduct as it relates to academics. Then the second meeting would be for our regular operations. So I'm not asking for any discussion, but just consideration that way we can keep our meetings to a smaller amount of time, but keep them focused, and that we would know that one of those meetings would not require a designed agenda, but would be agenda where the district can come forward and keep us abreast of how teaching and learning is taking place in ELA, math, and science. All right, Dr. Bethea.
And Madam Chair, while we have Mrs. Rush before us, it is Bullying Awareness Month, and I would like for Mrs. Rush to highlight some of the initiatives that are taking place across the district.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Beck. Just want to say that we have been doing several things within our schools. We have some curriculum that we'll be sharing, or you'll hear more about it, social and emotional learning through SUIT 360. So each of our schools have been assigned a lesson that students are to complete in that curriculum format as well. Additionally, we have student services. We've been making student services rounds every Monday or Tuesday whenever each school has their faculty meeting. So we have been going over the definition of bullying, going over scenarios, what is bullying, making sure that we're using the common language. We have relaunched Stop It, which is an anonymous reporting app that we've shared with you previously, as well as See Something, Say Something. The reporting app is for our middle and our high school students. And so all of our middle and high schools, with the help of our public information officer, it's been posted on our website again. We did do a telephone call home as well to make our parents aware. Additionally, I have asked to present at each school's school improvement council meeting regarding bullying, so that we have that common language and that understanding, how we report it, how we respond to it, and then the safety plan that has to be put in place as well. And the last thing that I talked with Dr. Bethea about as recently as yesterday, a community event. We have a date for our areas 7, 2, and 1 for that community to come together at a centralized location, and it will be about supporting the needs of the whole child and that emphasis on bullying and ensuring a safety. It is also the intent after the discipline task force meets as well to share with community, family, stakeholders at that time the revised discipline task force, the policies from our student code of conduct. So those are the things that we have been doing and the things that we are planning to do as well.
Thank you, Ms. Rush.
Dr. Bethea, I have one question. How do you all assess the performance of, I know you're putting all these programs into place with bullying. But how do you assess their effectiveness? Is it, can you see the numbers of that it's decreasing, or is it staying the same? And I mean, is that happening?
Yes, Mrs. Rush does a great job. You talk about data, of tracking the data, looking at it from the school level all the way down to the classroom level, but I'll let her explain that as well.
Yes, ma'am, that is a great question, Ms. Allison, and thank you for asking that. So in addition to looking at one piece of data, we all know the office discipline referral. That is not the only piece of data that we look at. It is one of the primary pieces that we look at. Additionally, we're looking at attendance, because if students are being bullied and they feel like they're being bullied, there's that activity that's going on that will affect attendance as well. So we're looking at the attendance reports. One other thing that we have not looked at yet, but it is another probe a piece of data that we do need to look at, would be visits to the nurse's office, because a lot of students will have, I got the tummy ache and things like that. So you will see that same thing, could see it with visits to the nurse's office as well. So rather than just relying on one piece of data, we're looking at least 3 different pieces of data to determine the effectiveness. And not only we look at completion of lessons and curriculum and things like that that relate to bullying, but just those other pieces as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, we do not have all of our principals here due to some conflicts, but at this time, I would like the principals that are here, or those that may be designees for principals, to please stand. And we want to just take a moment to highlight and thank our principals for the work that they do each day in our schools, and recognize them for National Principals Appreciation Month. And we know that they are ready to go home. Many of them start their day at 6 something in the morning. So if they step and be recognized, they can go ahead and tiptoe out. So at this time, will our school level administrators please stand to be recognized? Thank you so much. Thank you. Now on to the information, a busy month. Last month, we participated in many of the activities for the 150th anniversary of Mullins. We participated in many activities as a district. We also had fire safety visits that have taken place in our schools. Our Montessori students just do not cease to amaze me. They are growing, they're planning, they're working, and that data continues to soar with our Montessori program. Also, we recognize Daughters of American Revolution, where we had Constitution Week in the district. We also, during the month of September, is a time where high schools across the state have college fairs. And so each of our schools have had their college fair activities as well. Do want to thank board members that were able to go on our first Wednesday walk. Do want to notify the board that the walk on October the 26th will be rescheduled due to one of the board members making me aware that several of you will be headed to school board training on that particular day. So we will identify another day for that walk and accommodate your schedules. Lots of club inductions, beta club inductions at our middle and high schools. And again, back to the fire safety. So it's just been a very, very busy month. What I would like to bring to your attention, I do have the department updates, and those are just basic updates. Technology, we're continuing to re-image computers. HR, they are excited about a partnership that we have with Francis Marion, and we're doing some great work with them. We also, Teaching and Learning has gone over their report earlier. And then with public relations is doing an excellent job making sure that our social media accounts are being updated. Hopefully you received last month's copy of the Pulse, which just gives you an idea of the great things that are happening across the district. And then Student Services, Ms. Rush did make you aware of Bullying Awareness Month. One thing that I want to bring to your attention, if you will look in your blue executive session folder, you should have 2 sheets of paper that say balance reports for ESSA 1, 2, and 3. This is something that was requested by the board. This shows the funds that we have remaining and when those funds expire. I will say, if you look at ESSA 2, one of the largest areas that you see deals with, a lot of those deal with our software and technology purchases, and which take a large amount of money, and those are normally done in the spring. But just want to make you aware of that. And if there are additional questions next month, we can answer those questions as well. But just wanted to let you know our balances and the breakdown of the areas that the money was allocated in. Other than that, Madam Chair, I do have a request for transfers and release, and the only one that we have right now is for an in-district transfer, which really does not need approval. I'm able to handle that administratively. It's more of a just making you aware.
So do we need a motion for this to accept the
Not-
transfers? We do not. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we have public participation, Reverend Tony Page. Welcome, Mr. Page. Mr. Page, I'll just remind you of our protocol and policy for Marion schools and having participation. It's 3 minutes. And at the end of the 3 minutes, we'll say thank you very much. And then we'll respond. The board will not be responding to you tonight, but we'll do a collective response and a letter to you following this meeting. So Reverend Page, we're very glad to have you here with us tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you to the board. To Dr. Candace. I would like to introduce with me, standing with me, our president of the Racial Justice Network, Dr. Candace Brewer, and also our CEO of the Racial Justice Network, Elder James. Amen. So the issues I have, thank y'all for the letter that y'all sent. But on the research that I researched about it, it just don't match up. I was given some pay stubs from some of the workers, and the average salary for them is between 12 to 13,000, and they do not equal 20,000. That do not equal $10 an hour. Doing my research, I came up with, if they was making $10 an hour, the average salary would be $20,000 a year. But no one in the cafeteria is making that. So the problem is that they average salary is like $490 per pay period. Per pay period, that's $980 a month. So at the end of the day, that's not even meeting Marion County state level what they pay. Because the state wage for, even here in Marion County, is $14.71 for a worker that works here in Marion County. So at the end of the day, they're not even meeting that. So, and at the end of the day, they're even living under the poverty level. Half of them can qualify for a SNAP or benefits like that, and half of them have to work second jobs and do this just to meet the needs. Because the average rent here in Marion County is $591 a month, just for one bedroom, and they make under that. So at the end of the day, how can they even take care of themselves? And that's just the problem we're having with the cafeteria workers across the board. I know the letter came out and said they make $10. None of them making that. None of them making that. And they get more work put on them. Some of them work 7.5 hours, but their salaries only equate to 7 hours. So they really getting cheated out of 30 minutes every day during the month. You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we need to look at this a little bit better. We need to look at it, we need to go and research it and look at the numbers the right way and see where we lacking at paying the cafeteria workers. They are a very important part of the school district. Y'all want the children to be fed, and no workers go in there with a smile on their face every day for them kids. They go in there and do what they have to do and feed those kids and have a meal for them morning and afternoon. They make sure it's a good place for them to go eat at. But they just want to get compensated for the work that they do. And that's across the board. So I would like for this board to really look into that and see what we can do to really help them. Because I know we can. If you really wanted to, y'all really can help them. Because we at least can meet the average salaries here in Marion County. We can at least do that. The average salary in that cafeteria is $8.60.
Thank you, Reverend Page,
Thank
and
you.
your voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move into any discussion to follow up as it relates to what was shared tonight. Does anybody have anything to discuss as it relates to student behavior and code of conduct?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair. Dr. Buffet, how long will that temporary code of conduct go into effect? How long will you use that for?
We don't want to put a time step when I will say, when we feel that we have safe and orderly environments, but again, we don't want to take it away and it becomes unsafe again or disorderly. And so with that being stated, we will continue to monitor our data for discipline, and I will make sure that our discipline task force continues to meet and to make sure that what we put in place is working. And if it's not working, we may be back to say we need to take a more aggressive approach. And so we will continue to monitor, and it could go either way in terms of some sense of relief, or it could be strengthening even this.
Dr. Buffet, I don't think we ought to let up on it. I mean, if it works, it works. If we go back to what we've been doing, that wasn't working, so.
And the reason I say
think the
this,
threat of that's gone.
we try our best with the discipline task force. When we bring in the task force, you have a unique group of people from various aspects of the district. And that code of conduct is developed by a team. And the reason I put temporary, I do know that in this role as superintendent, there are times where I just have to make a decision without a collaborative group. But we want to go back and honor the voices of our team. And so that's why this is temporary, but I'm hopeful that the team will convene and see the need for this, Ms. Pridgeon, to be honest.
Thank
you. Dr. Bethea, will you actually be assessing the events that have kind of led up to some discussion? Will you be assessing and maybe doing a deep dive as to why are these events transpiring?
Yes, ma'am. We are looking at it. We're taking a holistic approach. And we're looking at it on not only the student end and the punitive, but we're also looking at it on our end. What systems do we have in place? What glitches in our systems that we have in place? What procedures should be in place but are not being held accountable? So we're looking at it holistically because again, we know that the child plays a role, but we also have a role of making sure that we have procedures and protocols in place, and not only in place, but they are being followed consistently across our buildings and across classrooms.
And I just love hearing this. I think we want the success of the schools. There's not a person sitting around this table that doesn't want our schools to be successful. So yeah, we'll look forward to you keeping us updated as you move forward with this. Yes, Ms. Foxworth.
I'm sorry, I went down. Is there a way that we can actually get the date for the anti-bullying event that Ms. Rush is gonna have?
Yes, we can make sure we'll get that sent out.
Also, I enjoyed the boardwalk. Thank you so much to each principal that took us through. Is there a way that we can also get a copy? And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this out loud right here. Can we get a copy of the letter that Reverend Page received? Can we see the letter?
Oh, absolutely. And it should have. It should have been in your packet. And so we'll make sure that Ms. Goss gets that when we go into executive session. Yeah. I think that was a request. That is our oversight. I think that was a request at the last meeting that everybody receives a copy of that. Appreciate it.
I think my other questions are coming.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Again, if you have any agenda items for next month, You can share those now. I'll send out a reminder about if there's something you want on the next month's agenda.
Madam Chair, I do have one more.
Yes.
For Dr. Bethay. Is there a way that we can figure out what date the bonuses are coming out, the $1,000 bonus incentives for the holidays? Because I promise you're getting a lot of calls on those. And it's another one for a $200 bonus. I'm not quite sure. I think that's the made up one, but I'm not sure. Because you know, you get the calls. and I'm like, we gotta
and
watch
this-
the meeting.
And I don't have it before me, so Ms. Grant, please help me out if I get this incorrect. We have established, and it will be sent out since we're getting close, but it is tied to attendance, and it is that time where we have a lot of staff absences is between that Thanksgiving break and that Christmas break. And so if a staff member is in attendance every day, I think it's 1,000 every week. And so every week during that time frame, and then it's just a graduated tiered, I think, and I don't want to call numbers, but the next level is 750. Then the next level is 500, but I don't want to call the number days, but we will get that information out, but I don't want to say during the holidays, but it's for that winter break, leading up to that winter break.
So yes, it's 1,000 for just from Thanksgiving to Christmas
Attendance,
break.
because if you think about the amount that we have to pay in a sub.
Oh, I know. I mean,
In subs, and
certainly
and I'm gonna be honest, right now, it's hard to find subs.
Well, I wanted to make sure I said it out loud because you have a lot of people that's contacting us.
Yes,
And what
no,
I'm doing
they should know, we always send out an official, we're not gonna send it out in September, we'll send it out closer to the time, and we always send a memo that spells out exactly what they need to do, so they'll have enough time to make sure that they schedule and do everything that they need to do to be able to meet the criteria.
I want
And
to
that's
direct
just
the
the
call.
teaching staff.
That's the whole district.
The whole district.
The whole district. Last year, you recall, we did it, but it was in August. Every staff member was able to do an extra $1,000. And I want to make sure that we're clear. When we say, because I do know that there was a comment made that it excluded a staff. There's no staff member, whether it's custodians, teachers, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, every staff member, when we have incentives, it is open to every staff member. And so there's not a group that we exclude. And that has been the case. And we have done now, this will be our third or fourth bonus that we've done. So the opportunity is there. So if someone didn't get something, that means that they did not meet the criteria. I think our last one, they had to watch videos online, and it could have been done at school. It could have been done at home at their own time. But you have to meet the criteria, because when we're using federal dollars, and the way that we're able to do these is not through our local budget. We're able to do this through some of our special funding that we have right now. But with that special funding, you have to have a concrete way. You just can't say we're giving it. You have to earn it in some way. And so this next one is based off of attendance.
Thank you for clarification.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just a reminder that our board retreat is on October 25th, and I think that's a Tuesday
At Anderson Brothers Bank.
at Anderson
What
Brothers Bank.
What are the
Um,
hours?
What
And
is the time?
it will start at 9. If you could schedule from 9 to about 3:30, and if we can get you out sooner, we will.
Okay, and I'll send out a reminder for that also, guys, so we don't forget. Early dismissal is October 27th, which would be that Friday. And the SCASBIT conference is October 26th through the 28th at Hilton Head. Also a reminder, Election Day is coming on November 8th, and there'll be no school. And I know that the county is responsible for setting all of that up at the schools,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Will they be doing it at Marion Elementary going into the back? Like,
That worked out well, the last time with elections, where you entered in the back and they did everything kind of isolated. It worked out very well. So that can be our recommendation, again. I'm not sure if the board is aware. I can't remember it at that time if Mr. Sturkey made the board aware. We are waiting, for the election commission, North Mullins primary. They had a little accident with our breezeway when they were packing up this summer for the other election. And so we're still we're not able to use, which is one of our main entryways. And so working with the county to make sure that we have, that properly repaired. I just.
Okay. Didn't know about that.
A little fender bender.
A little. And then our next regular meeting is November 15th. We will now begin to prepare to go into executive session for the following things. Contractual matters responding to surplus property and superintendent's evaluation. Yeah.
And Madam Chair, I do need to have it not for personnel action, but for a personnel matter.
Okay, all right. So we have contractual for surplus property. We have, let me kind of rewrite, list personnel concerning employee. And I'll put utilization of employees as well, if that helps. All right. Those are our two things for executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session at this time?
I motion.
Thank you, Ms. Foxworth. Do I have a second?
That's second.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. We have a motion is properly second. All those in favor of going into executive session, say
Madam
aye.
Chair,
Yes. Yes, Reverend Brandt.
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Normally, we leave the room.
Yeah, but we're,
Can we find a room so that those who attend can stay in here in the future? Maybe not tonight. And we can go into another room? Because when we stay in here, there's no place for them to go. And no chairs in the hallway, so they have no place to go.
well, we can.
We did at the last meeting. Yes, but we can continue to do that. Last meeting, we did put some in the hallway. There are none out there tonight, but we can do that either way that the board decides. We can either make sure
Okay.
we line the hallway, but do something to accommodate those. Yeah.
Do we feel comfortable in going into our room for executive board tonight?
That's fine with me.
That's fine with me.
I feel fine.
Is everybody then what we'll do is we'll convene in our executive boardroom. So with that being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will convene in the executive board. motion to come out of executive session into open session?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have a motion properly second. All those in favor of coming out of executive session, say aye, please.
Aye.
Wonderful. Just to state, no actions were taken during executive session. We do have, do we have a motion at this time? Yes,
Chair, I
okay.
have one.
Thank you, Ms. Foxworth.
I move that the Marion County Board of Trustees transfer a surplus property of the Centenary Community Center as well as the Spring Branch Center to Marion County for public purpose, with the understanding that the property can revert back to the district should the property be seized or be unused to be used for public anymore, if it will not be used for the public anymore.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Foxworth. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
Thank you, Mr. Dozier. We have a second. We have a motion. It's properly second. Any discussion about the motion? With no discussion, we'll bring that motion to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none opposed, the motion stands and it's recorded. Board, I am down to the very last, number 13. Do I have a motion at this time?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have many people. I'm going to take Ms. Foxworth. Second. Oh, and Ms. We have a full board has brought the motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that stands. We are adjourned. And everybody, thank you for staying with us. We appreciate it.